I will present in this video how to document and test authenticated APIs. In my first article, I showed how to document and test API endpoints. And in my second article, I add authentication to that APIs. Now it's time to add this authentication to the RSWAG documentation. Let's remember what we did on the authentication part. Let's start the server and check using the Postman our endpoints. The first thing that I did was create a field called the password to the user table. It was a password digest because of the decrypt. And now to create a user, we have to inform the email and password. Let's create that user. Let's see. Well, the email is created, the ID is 1. Now, the second step was to create the endpoint to do the login. Is the auth login, informing the email and password. When I do the login, the return is the token, the expiration date, email, and the API and the ID of the user. Let's copy this token. We protected on the controller, Rails controller, the endpoints for show, update, and delete. So to run the show user to the user with ID number 1, I have now to inform the token on authorization. And now I am able to do the show of the user number 1, returning the information, and return also the password digest. That is the new column that we created to the user table. Let's add this information to our documentation. So basically on the spec, integration, user spec, where the documentation is stored, we have to inform on the, when we create a user, now we have to inform also the password. So now we have to create a user, inform email and password. That is required, the password is required. The description is not required, right? But we can inform also the description. What else? When we do the update, we can also update the password. And what else? As we saw on the show, the return, the output of the information brings out also the password digest. So let's change that to password digest, right? And copy that information on the outputs of we have for list, create, to show, update, yeah, email, delete, and return anything. So just that. Doing that updates, the information about password was added on the documentation. The second thing that we have to do now is to add the endpoint of the login to the documentation. On the same integration folder, we will create a file called the auth login spec rb In this file, the content is in the article. Basically, we are informing that for this endpoint, auth login, we have to inform email and password, strings, required, and the output is the token, expiration date, email, and ID, right? So we have now the endpoint for login and information of the passwords on the documentation. Now we have to inform the Swagger that we are using authentication. The way to do that is adding this information here after the server. We inform that we are on the security schemes that we are using a name, API key auth. This is an arbitrary name. You can choose one that you prefer by using API key auth. The type is API key. Let's show the documentation of the RSWAG. The type can be HTTP for basic and bearer authentication. API key for tokens, API keys, same thing, or auth2 or OpenID Connect. You can check information for these types on the documentation, right? In our case, the token is the API key, and we are passing the token on the field authorization of the header, as we saw in the Postman, the authorization field of the header, right? With that, we are informing the RSWAG that we are using authentication using token. Save that. And the next step is to add that information of the API key auth to our endpoints. According to the controller, we are protecting the show, update, and destroy. So we will do the information of the security on the show here, adding API key auth as a security after this in the beginning of the documentation for show, update, and for delete. That's all. We just need now to run to create the documentation and check the content. Let's wait just for OK, no fail. Open the local host, API docs. Now we have on the documentation this thing. Authorize, that means that the documentation now is working with authentication, authenticated APIs, and the protected endpoints has also the padlock. The open padlock means that they are not authenticated yet, right? The authenticated access has the closed padlock. Let's try here to show our update the user. We created the user number 1, right? Let's try to update that user without authentication. So let's create a description to the user number 1. This the user responsible for authentication, right? When I try to run that without authentication, the error is unauthorized user. Let's fix that using the login that we created. Try it out. Inform the email api@doc.com, I think, and password secret. When I execute that, I receive the same thing as in the Postman, the token. I copy the token, return to the main page. On the authorize field, I inform the token and click on authorize. Now we are authorized to use the endpoints. The padlocks now are closed, showing that I am able to run. So let's try to use the same update again. Now the update works. User responsible for authentication. I can run the show, the ID number 1, right? Execution brings me the user with the new description, and I can also delete the user. Try it out. Deleted user 1. Response is 201, 204. That is okay. Thanks. That is all. Thanks for watching this video, and see you in my next article. Bye.